It's OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, here at the Oklahoman Studios, 100 West Main, Suite 100, with our Thunder coverage team. From my far left, beat writer Eric Horn, fresh back from Denver, at least that's your most recent road trip. Beat writer Anthony Slater, who is about to wade into Snowmageddon 2016 this weekend.
If I can get there, I might just be in the airport all weekend.
And
I hope so.
Appreciate it.
And the nation's foremost authority on the NBA and OKC, Darnell Mayberry. Guys, we start with the All-Star game. They're going to announce the All-Star game starters tonight on TNT. I think it's 6 o'clock, is that right? And it appears that Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook will start. Teammates starting. How big a deal is this, Anthony?
Well, I don't think teammates starting is a huge deal. I mean, LeBron and Wade probably did it every year they were in Miami. I mean, it happens all the time. There's been stars together a lot. But what I think is important here is Russell Westbrook is starting for the first time ever. It just kind of shows his ascension past Chris Paul. I think Justin Bieber had like a campaign to try to get Chris Paul in on Twitter, but I think Russell's going to stay ahead of him, and he should. I mean, this guy is a top 2 guard, probably in the, I don't know if you say the league, but definitely in the West. Him and Steph Curry should be starting in the backcourt, and it just kind of shows where he's come.
Eric, do we need to be worried about Justin Bieber?
You always got to be worried about Justin Bieber.
No, we don't need to be worried about Justin Bieber because Westbrook pretty much set himself up for this last year with his MVP-like performance in the absence of Kevin Durant. It is a big boost for the Thunder, and it shows their popularity nationwide. And it also shows that Russell Westbrook has kind of taken this popularity surge he had in Kevin Durant's absence last year and kind of ridden it to become one of the most popular guards in the NBA. I just came back from Denver, and people were cheering for Russell Westbrook like he was one of theirs, like he was Carmelo Anthony circa 2007 or something. So, I mean, Russell Westbrook is beloved all over the NBA. It's not just here.
I think it's his fashion. It's definitely his game. And I think in some ways it's his post-game press conferences that we may not appreciate at times. People love it. When we tweet out those videos or whatever, they love that, orneriness, whatever you want to call it, with the media. I mean, his popularity really has skyrocketed the last couple
That's
of years.
all for you, Darnell. No, that's what Westbrook said. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is give us some historical perspective on this. You covered him when he walked into this city, when he walked into this league, the guy who is he not a point guard, all this. How do you view this? And he was the MVP of the game last time. Now he's going to be a starter.
I agree with what these two guys said. I mean, it just shows you how far he's come as a player, as a personality, as a popular player in the league. But more than anything, I think it's really good for not just him, but the fans and the city of Oklahoma City. When you watch the All-Star game now, you got 2 people representing your city starting, saying from the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's just a source of pride, I think, for the city more than anything. And it just shows you that he's now one of the premier players in the league, and people look at him that way. For a long time, and this is good for the city because people say, well, why would he want to stay there? Well, he's been second in the MVP or third, whatever he was in the MVP. Now he's going to start an All-Star game, you would think. And, he's done pretty much everything you can do. He's led the league in scoring. He's got the max contract. He's got the fashion empire building. So he's doing all of that right here in Oklahoma City, and I think that's the most significant thing beyond his ascension as a player.
And he's got the commercials. Russell's Brussels. This is Russell. He's got the Mountain Dew commercial, Eric. I mean, don't you expect to see him sliding by our window over here
In a green suit.
in a
He
green
ain't coming
suit?
by here anytime soon.
He's got the poncho.
He's got the poncho. It is remarkable, Darnell, just to look at, first of all, the opportunity that came to him and this city by their spectacular play. Part of it, I think, a little bit of a launching pad was that series against the Lakers. Like right about the time the team became something, it had an epic series against the eventual NBA champion. But Russell has taken advantage of it in ways that really no one else would. Like a conventional point guard or a conventional personality probably wouldn't have ridden it this high.
He got a fortunate break this year, too, because, I mean, Steph Curry was always going to be the #1 guard in voting, and then Kobe Bryant would have been the 2 guard, but the Lakers are playing him at the forward this year, so now he's in the front court players, because Kobe's leading everyone. I mean, I think he has more combined than, like, LeBron and Durant do. So he catches a break there. how about this West starting lineup? Especially if you can somehow Kobe misses the game with injury, Curry, Westbrook, and then you can go Durant, Kawhi, Draymond Green. Is that like the best small ball lineup ever?
That is.
That could be nasty.
And who really is the 5 here?
Draymond, I guess.
Or Durant?
Yeah, whoever. I mean,
He could do his whole Dirk. He could do a whole Dirk night. I mean, he could just do Dirk the whole night.
It's really shown the evolution of the NBA game today. Just the way that the All-Star votes are panning out with Draymond being your starter, and he's what 6'7". He'd be your 6'7" starting center. I mean, we've gone away from the days of the lumbering center, the Dwight Howards, the Patrick Ewings starting in the All-Star game.
Well, the league outlawed it, right? The league said you don't have to have a center anymore.
Yeah, it's just front
It
court.
took
and back
front court and back court, which is an admission that Andrew Bogut against Marc Gasol wouldn't be like maybe the best.
DeMarcus Cousins, Andre
DeMarcus
Drummond. That'd be a nice little clash. They will play in the game together.
But not mandated and not starters.
And it shouldn't be, but I'm just saying. There's
It's
better
the,
centers
it's the
than
fall of
Kobe.
Dwight Howard in some ways. Eric, you're writing a story off of this for Friday's newspaper and for the web as soon as the All-Star announcement. What's your angle?
Basically, looking at what we talked about a little bit and how Russell Westbrook. I mean, it's more so of a look at the progression of Durant and Westbrook through the All-Star vote. And Durant's been pretty consistent since maybe his second or third year in the NBA. But I mean, this Westbrook spike has happened in the last couple of years, and it'll kind of show some of the history behind All-Star starters and who has started that are teammates. And I'm fumbling over my words right now, but it'll show a little bit about some of the history of All-Star starters, and it goes back pretty far.
You did some investigating. This is not
He's become our lead investigator.
lead investigator. This is not unprecedented. In fact, it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to Ryan Sharp, our assistant sports editor, and he's, I guess, the lead investigator on this. According to Ryan, it goes back 25 years at least where guys have started the All-Star game together. Teammates have started the All-Star game together. I mean, you've got guys like Paul and Griffin who have done it multiple times. Wade and LeBron have done it multiple times. Kobe has done it with multiple teammates, Andrew Bynum and then Dwight Howard. So it's not unprecedented. It's not in any way unique, but it is pretty cool for Oklahoma City.
We may have just talked ourselves into a Russell Westbrook angle here. I mean, that is, you said it, that's the story.
continued
It's the
rise.
ascension of Russell Westbrook.
It's especially coming off last year when, remember, he almost didn't get in last year because of he missed like 14 games in the first half, and there was some question if he'd get in. And 42 points, All-Star MVP. Now this next year, I mean, he's clearly above Chris Paul as far as popularity.
Hey
in the
now.
NBA.
Hey now.
No argument there.
I wasn't even going to bring it up. Okay, hey, let's stay on Westbrook for one more topic. Talk about the evolution of his game and what's he doing different.
Yeah.
Let's fill in the blank. Westbrook 2016 edition, Anthony, is fill in the blank.
Mature, especially we saw it last night. We've seen it lately. I mean, early in games, he is getting everyone involved. I know there was times we'd sit there, press row, even the last couple of years, even while he's 25, 26, and sometimes early in games he's coming and he's jacking 8 shots, and his teammates kind of aren't involved. Lately, he's been getting 6, 7 assists in the first quarter, only shooting 3, 4 times. You could tell he's kind of realized, especially I think with these weapons he has around him, which are, Steven Adams is maturing, Durant's back. He's just making it a point to get everyone involved early on.
How do you finish that sentence, Eric?
Say the sentence again.
Westbrook 2016 edition is
An complete offensive player, except for the threes. But he's cut back on the threes. Okay, Westbrook 2016 is a controlled offensive player. That's better. Because even in this stretch where he shot poorly from the field, you can tell early in the games, as Anthony said, he's trying to get other people involved. He's passing up shots that might not be his shot. He's passing up threes. He's pump faking and he's driving. When the ball's coming out of his hands, the rotation is not looking good right now. He had a shot last night where he got caught in between. And he didn't know whether he wanted to bank it off the backboard or he wanted to shoot off the rim, and the ball just looked funky coming out of his hands. So right now he's getting teammates involved. He's had double points and assist totals for a great stretch in these last 5 games, and complete and control on offense.
Look, he's shooting 39% or less this month, 25 or whatever from three. He's shooting terribly this month, but nobody's really noticing. I mean, imagine if he did that in 3 years ago, we'd all be talking about his terrible shooting percentages, but he does so much else that nobody's even talking about it and shouldn't be talking about it.
It's not just that he's like getting other guys shots. He's getting guys easy shots. He's getting guys dunks. He's getting guys easy rolls to the rim. I mean, he's setting guys up on the table better than anybody in the league right now, I'd say.
And his willingness to do that is why this Billy Donovan offense seems to be evolving this team.
How do you finish the sentence, Darnell?
I would say lethal. I mean, one night he can give you 30, 35 points. The next night he can give you 15, 20 assists. Next night he can give you 15, 17 rebounds. I mean, he's doing everything on the floor on the offensive end. You still like to see his defense be more consistent, but offensively he's lethal right now.
And as you referred to, Anthony, he's opening himself up to coaching or direction anyway. I mean, the idea then, I heard you asking Durant about this last night in the postgame. What does that do for a team when all of a sudden you look up and your point guard's got 5 assists in the first quarter? How has that changed the tone and tenor of the team? How's that changed? How's that moved them in the direction that Donovan would like to go?
Well, to me, it's not that you look up and it's like, hey, Russell Westbrook has 5 assists, but it's, hey, Steven Adams has a basket. Ibaka has one. Andre Robertson has a dunk. Kevin Durant has 4 shots early on. That's what gets people willing to play and involved and in the game.
And it's always been a fine line with him because you know that he can really start your team off on a good note. He has energy like no one else in the league, so you don't want to bridle that and take that from him. But at the same time, he can get his shot whenever he wants. He can score whenever he wants. So you want to be able to get Anthony Morrow involved. You want to get Serge Ibaka, Steven Adams, those guys going early. And I think that's kind of what he's doing more this year, more than ever.
Speaking of getting Anthony Morrow involved, we got Barry Trammell we want to get involved. Barry's on the Hangout right now, and Barry wrote about the guy who's kind of taking Anthony Morrow's minutes. Not
This
kind
guy.
of, who is. Kyle Singler.
Kind of looks like Kyle Singler's grandpa.
Let me ask you, Barry, did you see this Kyle Singler surge coming?
No, not really. I mean, a few weeks ago, anytime Singler stood up to take his warm-up off, we were all a little surprised. But if you think about it, I mean, the truth is Anthony Morrow can't guard. It's not a question of will. It's not a question of smarts. It's not a question of desire. It's just a question he's not physically capable. And the Thunder's got to start improving the defense to reach the elite level of the Spurs and the Warriors. So Singler can guard. He doesn't always do it well, but he's capable and he does do it often. And it's going to be a lot easier to get Kyle Singler's offense up to speed than it is Anthony Morrow's up to speed on defense, which is basically impossible.
He is a fouling machine, though, Anthony. I mean, he can foul. Not Cameron Payne levels, but he can foul.
Yeah, no doubt. But, I mean, we talk about, like, regression. With Cameron Payne was shooting so hot, he's going to regress. I mean, Kyle Singler was going to regress upwards, or I guess whatever you want. Progress.
Progress.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there we
what
go.
you're looking for.
Hey, get that? Did you get that one, Barry?
Progress
Yeah.
upwards.
He was so bad in the first month, but like if you just looked at his history in Detroit and he wasn't this bad. I don't know. It's still like pretty strange what happened.
Are you saying it's a mid-career slump?
It was a mid-career crater? But I don't know. I mean, he's right as far as look. This second unit now has Cameron Payne, who's like a very good offensive talent, and Enes Kanter, who we all know which way he tilts. It kind of needed some defensive punch. Anthony Morrow just doesn't have it. I mean, he was undrafted because like he just can't laterally move. Like he's unathletic for like a normal person as far as like in the hips and stuff.
Let's not make.
I just mean like trying to laterally guard.
Do that
Did you
move again? What
Did
is
you-
that?
I feel like Baldwin's back.
Did you see Andrew Wiggins when the Wolves were here the other night? I think it was the last game Anthony Morrow played. They had him guarding Anthony Morrow guarding Wiggins at one point, and like it was just blow by dunk, and then they took him out.
Eric, what about Morrow though? He's not buried, is he? I mean, what's the circumstances for him to play again?
Hey, it could be Billy Donovan waking up on Monday and deciding that he wants to change the lineup again. It could be a matchup thing. Billy Donovan always talks about the day by day and the matchups. And And right now, he feels like Singler's a better matchup. And we've seen Morrow time and time again. Teams they'll get a mismatch on him, and Morrow's hanging all over his defender in transition, and they'll throw one up to Rudy Gay, and he's got 3 or 4 inches on him. Or Morrow will leave some guy on the backside open for a corner 3. It's those defensive lapses that I think Billy feels like he's more confident going with Kyle Singler right now, not just because of the length, but because of the integrity he holds up on the defensive end. But that being said, we could see Morrow come back into the rotation. We thought Kyle Singler was buried a few weeks ago, and now he's back.
He's an ankle twist away. I mean, if Durant misses some time, he'll probably start for Durant. If Robertson misses some time, he'd probably start for Robertson. It's just with everyone healthy and with how this team is working offensively right now, Kyle Singler just makes a little more sense.
To me, it's a good problem to have. I mean, look, we all talked about at the beginning of the season, this is the deepest team that the Thunder's had. Well, I don't think it'd be wise for us to sit here and nitpick every time Billy Donovan makes a rotational adjustment. This is what the roster was built for. One night he can go to defense with Singler. The next night he can go to offense with Morrow. He's still there in case he needs a shooter, and you still have one of the best shooters in the league on your bench whenever you're ready to dust him off.
A lot of people wanted Kyle Singler buried, but look, you don't want to have a guy like that, a 6'8" guy who can potentially shoot buried against a Golden State. You want to have as many options as you possibly can. You don't want anybody buried on this team the way that Golden State and San Antonio can roll 8, 9, 10 guys at you.
Especially when you're going to pay him $25 million over 5 years.
Exactly.
Sunken treasure. Speaking of somebody who's buried or not playing a lot, Barry, Mr. Thunder's not playing very much. Mr. Thunder, of course, I'm speaking of Nick Collison. What goes on there?
Well, I mean, it's 2 things. It's basically Billy Donovan's desire to get Enes Kanter involved more, playing not just with the B team, but with Steven Adams or Serge Ibaka at the same time. Donovan is going less and less with all bench units, and he's incorporating more and more of at least one starter with guys off the bench, and it's usually Adams or Ibaka, because all of a sudden that porous defense on the perimeter from the B team is a lot better when you got Adams or Ibaka on the back end. So playing Kanter with Ibaka or Adams makes Kanter more serviceable on defense. So and with just the general nature of small ball becoming more and more prevalent, you're going to see less and less of your number 4 big man getting minutes. So I don't think this is any kind of declaration on Collison's value or Collison's abilities. I just think circumstances have created what's amounted to a 3-man rotation for the 1 or 2 big spots available on the floor.
Anthony, the team is playing well. It's playing well, however, against it's not a lineup of the top half of the Western Conference or even the Eastern Conference. So what do you make of the way the team's playing right now?
21-4 in the last 25, which is good, but 15 of those 21 wins are against under 500 teams. You can only play who's in front of you. I think the biggest thing is at the start of this 25-game streak, nobody wanted to see this team against the Warriors or Spurs. It was like they're lucky to not have them on their schedule. The way they've played over the last 25 games, now I want this team to be tested against the Warriors and Spurs, which they will. I think 6 games against those 2 in the second half. I'm ready for it.
Eric, what do you see from this team that you maybe weren't seeing back in those days when you were thinking, maybe not against Spurs or Warriors?
We've seen defensive improvement, and I mean, from where they started, I don't know if that's good enough to beat the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs, but you have seen clear defensive improvement. They're on the cusp of the top 10 in defensive efficiency right now in the league, and you're just seeing better play from guys like Cameron Payne, who's been integrated into the lineup since we didn't want that time that we didn't want to see them go up against these top teams. You've seen Cameron Payne emerge as a good second scoring option. You've seen Kyle Singler get kind of his groove back in the past few games and actually put together some consistent run of play. And this is a team that has a lot in front of it. A lot of games against not only the Clippers and the Spurs, but also against, not against the Warriors and the Spurs, but against the Clippers as well. So got a lot of proving to go, and yeah.
Barry, what is the hot stretch? 21-4, as Anthony said. What's it proven to you about this team?
Well, it's proven me that they're a good, solid team. In fact, they're about as good as what we've come to expect out of the Thunder. The problem this year, Thunder's playing a 60-win pace. Problem this year, that's only going to get you third, a distant third in the West. All of the Thunder issues this year in terms of concern and worry by us, by fans, by everyone, is the level at which the Warriors and the Spurs are performing. And right now, the Thunder's not playing at that level. It's an historic level. It's an unbelievable level for one team, much less two in the same season. But that's what the Thunder's being judged on. And that's legit because that's who they got to beat to make the NBA Finals. But, if you look at the totality of Thunder history, this team is playing very well and in line with what we've seen out of the great Thunder teams of the past, which were championship caliber. Just a shot here or two doesn't go in. An injury or two here happens. It hasn't happened yet, but the Thunder has been title-worthy, title-level performance. But this year, the title-level performance may have risen quite a bit.
Guys, we're winding up on this. Anthony, we were teasing you a couple days ago about what you were going to do in New York this weekend. Big trip to New York after the Friday trip to Dallas, and now we think we know what you're going to do this weekend in New York. You're going to try to get there. What's it look like for Snowmageddon 2016 in New York, and what are your plans?
Well, it's going to hit Baltimore and D.C., I think, the hardest. I've been like a weatherman the last few days. I don't know. We've been talking about maybe sending Eric to Dallas, having me try to get to New York earlier. I've been typing Winter Storm Jonas update in my computer, every 20 minutes lately. So we'll see. I am a little worried, but because they play Sunday at 3:30, which is kind of a weird. They play right during the AFC title game. Strange timing.
Darnell, your worst road trip nightmare that you lived, not that you dreamed, that you lived.
Well, I hate to tell you this, young Slater, but it came in New York last year at the All-Star game, as a matter of fact. It was the coldest I've ever been. I remember walking to the Garden. It was traffic, going to the Garden for the game, and I got out of the cab because I wasn't going to get there in time if I stayed in the cab to go another 2 blocks to get to the game. I got out of the cab. I walked the last 2 blocks. And I swear I couldn't feel my feet, I couldn't feel my legs, I couldn't feel my hands. It was debris blowing in the wind, it was windy, it was cold. It was the worst cold I've ever felt up there. So hopefully you get nothing like that this year.
I had a bad one my first year. He was sending me to San Antonio, and there was an ice storm here, so the flight was canceled the night before. So I said, all right, I'll just rent a car and drive to San Antonio about, 8-9 hours, and I'm driving through an ice storm. I remember pulling over in like a Whataburger parking lot, and the antenna was completely frozen. It was a tough trip.
Barry, you got some escape from New York stories of your own. Is that the worst road trip nightmare you've experienced?
No, that's probably the best. I was in New York. You need the snowstorm to hit after you're in New York. You don't want to get stuck on the outside of New York. You want to get stuck on the inside of New York. My worst nightmare was trying to get home from the 2004 national title game. And you would think Miami to Oklahoma City would be a simple little process, but no. If you remember, that's the day the ice storm hit that night. The flights all over the country were a mess. I actually got in pretty good shape, but my family was flying to Tulsa. So at one point I said, you know what, so in Tampa or someplace, I jumped on a different flight. I said, I'll fly to Tulsa and meet them there. I made it in fine. They couldn't make it. They circled Louisville and Chicago and all kinds of places. They finally landed at Tulsa 3 or 4 hours late. We got an ice storm here. I didn't know where my wife's car was parked, so I couldn't go get the ice off and get it warmed up. So after everybody gets here, then we go to our car, spend an hour getting the ice off the car at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then start the drive home on icy turnpike. So I get home about 5 o'clock in the morning, what would be 2 days after the Orange Bowl. So that was, that's a lot worse than having to slog through the streets of New York.
He's still bitter to this day.
He's still bitter. Eric, you've been at this for about 6 weeks. Anything? You had a rough one yet?
Self-inflicted wounds. I missed my first flight going to Charlotte on New Year's Day. Had to rebook, and then on the way back on a Sunday, I get to the airport and I didn't realize that once you miss a flight, it cancels the entire reservation. So I got to the airport and I went to get my boarding pass and it wasn't showing up. And then the woman at the counter said, "Yeah, it canceled my whole reservation." So I had to stay an extra day in Charlotte. And it's a terrible feeling when you get to the airport and you're ready to go home and see your dog and lay down in your own bed and you can't go home. That's one of the worst feelings in the world.
You're telling on yourself in ways none of these guys would ever do it. It's a rookie mistake, but I appreciate your honesty. Hey, that's all for this.
How'd you miss your flight?
It was New Year's Day.
Keep
I'm
moving
guessing
on.
I
Hey,
was-
that's all for this edition of Thunder Thursday, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman.